Hi everyone, welcome to the Witching Week. Today is episode number 101. Today we're looking at a famous goat called Charlie, who's been in a couple of horror films. We are going to be talking about Wassailing, and we're going to be looking at some of the stereotypes surrounding witches. So grab a cup of tea, put some incense on, get comfy, and we'll explore the Witching Week. Hi everyone, welcome back. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. My name is Wren and I'm known as the Cemetery Witch. And today we have got a range of interesting topics. We're going to be talking animals, we're going to be talking people's attitudes towards women and witches, we're going to be looking at hereditary witchcraft, and we're going to be talking about wassailing. So today I am burning some oud incense by Satya. This was actually unopened, which is an absolute miracle, but I've got this huge pot of incense and I took this one out thinking I'd used it before, but never burned this one before. So I'm trying this one for the first time, and I'm drinking some very tea from Lidl. Nothing too extravagant. It's actually really very nice. Don't need to put a sugar in it or anything, and it says you can pop it in your food waste bin. It's quite nice when it's cold as well. It's like having squash but without all the sugar. So yeah, that's what we're on today. How are you doing? Apparently, a common response to that question in Norway is up and not crying, which has just been tickling me ever since I discovered it. So I wondered if we've got any Norwegians here who can sort of confirm or deny that this is said. But yeah, apparently up and not crying is a common response, and I think that works really well. Moving on to something else that people say. Some people say that something, or the weather is colder than a witch's tit. Now I thought this was something that my mum said. It has been very cold this week. Now we are moving into the sort of the last part of the week. It is much milder. But yeah, I didn't realise this was a thing. Apparently, this has been a phrase that's been around since 1932. It first appeared in the novel Spider House, and I suppose the phrase was coined by the author of that book, who was Francis Van Wyck Mason. So yeah, I thought that was a my mum thing, but apparently other people say it as well. So I think she used to say it's as cold as a witch's tit, but I think the phrase is actually colder than a witch's tit. But yeah, anyway, that tickled me this week because I heard that, and the image that I've shown you on screen has come up this week as well. So we've had the full moon in Cancer this week, which I found to be a really lovely, settled, peaceful, calming full moon. My sun sign is actually Cancer, and usually I find that full moon in Cancer can be really emotionally turbulent. I know as Cancers we are supposedly seen that way. I'm quite a settled person. I wouldn't say that I'm moody. I'm generally pretty on the level. We are very emotional though. It doesn't take much to reduce me to tears, either through laughter or something really touching. I don't cry much in terms of being sad. I have a pretty good sort of handle on my emotions generally. But yeah, I found this to be a really lovely lunation. What do you think? What's your sun sign? How did it affect you? Do you have an opinion on full moon in Cancer? Does it normally sort of make you feel one way or another? I thought it was super serene. I really did. I was expecting it to be a little bit sort of like hold on to your hats. I was expecting it to be very up and down for everyone. I mean, I guess it depends on what your birth chart looks like, doesn't it? It's not as sort of black and white as it's going to be this way or this way. Everybody's birth chart is completely different, and even everyone with their sun sign as Cancer is going to be completely different. But my experience of full moon in Cancer is usually that it's pretty emotionally turbulent, but I was pleasantly surprised this time around. It was lovely energy. Really enjoyed this full moon. So this week I started my tarot readings over at the Old Smithy in Burley in Rutland. Thank you if you came for a reading, and thank you to Pippin and Gilly for making this happen. If you'd like to come for a reading, then you can either contact Pippin's Potions, I know some of you are following that page, or just go to my website, which is thecemeterywitch.co.uk, and you'll be able to find more information on that. So it's really good if you're in the sort of Northamptonshire area, Lincolnshire area, Leicestershire area, sort of on that border with Rutland. It wouldn't be too difficult for you to sort of come in if you're in one of those areas. We have parking, and we have a lovely warm building for you to come in and enjoy the vibes. And the reading room, the room that I work in, is absolutely stunning. The vibe in there is just beautiful. It's so peaceful and calm and serene, and it looks out over the Rutland countryside. So come and join us. So I saw something in the week that actually really annoyed me. It annoyed me more than this sort of thing generally does, or more than I thought it would. So there is an app called Desistal, I had to think about that one, Desistal, Cut Alcohol or Quit. And they've come up with this idea of a wine witch, and they describe this as being that clever, persuasive inner voice that surfaces whenever you try and cut down on alcohol. And I'm finding this to be incredibly sexist. It's this notion, isn't it, of well, women, basically, an old hag, this idea of the witch, which has always had negative connotations. And you would kind of hope that by this point, we would have stopped with those kind of tropes. They're basically telling people with this advert that they have no inner control, that it is down to some other entity or being, in this case, the wine witch. And I don't find my inner voice to be bad at all. I find it to be something that guides me, that helps me, that keeps me safe, and it has got nothing generally to do with unwanted behaviours or attitudes, even when it comes to, you know, wanting to eat things perhaps that, you know, aren't good. I have always found my inner voice to be an extremely helpful and positive one. I am in control. And ironically, I think the thing that made me smile about this is we're talking about willpower, we're talking about will, aren't we? And it is our magical will and determination that allows us to make things happen. So the idea of having this inner witch that does the opposite and unravels everything, I just find a little bit silly, to be honest, and it really annoyed me. Of course, we have male witches, we have as many male witches as we have female witches, but when we're talking about a witch in this sense, with these negative connotations and ideas, we're talking about women. We're talking about this idea of the old hag, this picture of a woman who's at a point at which we consider disgusting or evil or bad, and this is how they've come up with this idea of the wine witch. Witches are healers. The witches in our communities, they may not have called themselves that, but they were the older ladies perhaps that had a lifetime of experience with healing, with midwifery, with like emotions and matters of the heart. They were not bad people. They were not this horrible idea that is still being used today in films and to advertise things. And it just made me quite upset, really, to be honest, which I was really, really surprised about. I saw something else in the week as well. This is a post from a festival of pagans and witches, which is a festival in the Midlands. It happens over Coventry Way. And I thought this was really, really on the money. This idea of how other people see people who call themselves witches. And again, we're going to refer to female witches here. The box that says what men think we look like is really, really upsetting. Like, we really need to stop with this sexualization and the fetishization of women that call themselves witches. We really, really do need to stop doing that. We are actually the last image in this meme, which is why it is so good. It is just so on the money. It did make me laugh. But we are the last image in our thoughts and practices. This I actually see as a sacred path. Again, going back to this idea of the wine witch and that being something awful and horrible, and these tropes around women, especially older women. We are the last image in this series of images. But we might be the first image to our partners, to our husbands, to our female partners if we have one, and that is private. And yeah, I think we really, really need to just stop that I have experienced lots of men who get very excited at the idea that because I'm a witch, I must just be some sort of sexual machine or creature, or just, that's not what it's all about. It's about wisdom, it's about knowledge, it's about skill. And yeah, it's just sad to see in this day and age, it's just not helpful, and strangers and people on the internet just need to stop with this rubbish. And then that got me onto something else here. This episode was not meant to turn into a rant, but these are the topics, these are the things that I've seen this week, and these are the things, therefore, that we're going to talk about. And I saw a discussion on hereditary witchcraft. Now, it's really, really interesting when you're a witch and you go out and you meet other witches and you go to events and stuff like that. And some people, the minute you meet them, will tell you that they are so many generations of being a witch. So they'll say, oh, I'm a 5th generation or a 9th generation. And that is regardless of how much knowledge and experience they actually have. I think there is some idea of status attached to this. I think the people that say it quite often do this as a means to impress. There's this idea that if witchcraft has been passed down to you by someone else, and that has gone on in your family for so many generations, that somehow that is better than just being a regular witch. I think with some people it comes from a place of superiority, not always. I think some people are probably misled and feel that they need to tell people that because it makes them feel a bit more confident in what they do. There's probably 100 reasons why people choose to do this. I don't agree with this. I would say that there is no right way for witchcraft, or to do witchcraft, if you like. There is no favoured gender. That comes up a lot. I see that some of the people that tell me that they are so many generations of witchcraft, it kind of goes hand in hand with being a woman. I feel like that's important to them. But there is no favoured gender within witchcraft. I've been a witch for many, many years, longer than I haven't, for over 26 years. It's probably more like 27 years now plus. And witchcraft is not dogmatic either. It's not like, you know, other faiths. I understand that there can be these familial patterns and people pass down familial recipes and spells and rituals, and that is absolutely beautiful. Don't get me wrong here, there is nothing wrong with that, but there is no bloodline when we're talking witchcraft. Again, there's no right way, there's no right path, there's lots of different traditions. Most of those traditions are fairly modern. When we look back hundreds of years, I doubt very much that many people actually called themselves witches. They just naturally had their little superstitions and their little things that they did that they felt were magic or would influence something. I'm sure many people over the years have worked magic but haven't considered themselves to be a witch or some form of magical practitioner. And one must choose the path of witchcraft. So even if you've got witches going back several generations, however many generations, you have to make the intent to travel this road. I know that some people will say, well, I didn't find witchcraft, but witchcraft found me. That still counts. I mean, I think witchcraft found me. Okay, I found a book, I opened the book and I discovered it, but that was deep there in my heart. So to a degree, witchcraft found me as well, but I still had to choose. I still had to decide whether this was something for me, whether this was something that I was going to pursue. And yes, the fact that whatever was in my heart was triggered and ignited, it was very, very difficult to ignore that. But I have had a period in my life as well where I did step away. Life took over. There was many, many reasons, and somehow I strayed off the path just for a little while, but I chose to come back to the path. I think that once we start talking about bloodlines and we start talking about things being better or having status in relation to bloodlines, I think we move into dangerous territory. It is an existence, it's a way of life, and for some people it is a profession as well. Some people say that we're all witches, it's just that some people choose it and some people reject it. I can kind of get on board with that as well. I think witchcraft is available to everyone. I don't like this notion of making things exclusive and leaving people out. At the same time, I don't think it's for everyone. I don't think everybody has the skill, perhaps. I don't think everyone has the integrity. I feel like there are certain characteristics that are related or should be to witchcraft and being a witch. I don't think being a rocket scientist is available to everyone, or being a brain surgeon, as much as people might want that. So it is available to everyone, but I think that only certain people either choose to follow this path or actually have the integrity, the wisdom, just the characteristics needed, that want for lifelong learning. I think plenty of people decide to come to the path and then they leave. But I think there is a lot of exclusive nonsense out there. I do find it hard to believe, sometimes when people say, I'm 9 generations, many forms of modern witchcraft, many traditions are very, very new. You wouldn't be able to go back that many generations. And I'm not saying that, it's not possible. Of course it is. But I feel that people inflate this. They make it bigger than it is. And in the magical community, we call that fibbing. So when people make out that the magical heritage is bigger than it is, or they do something to impress upon you their knowledge and experience, but quite often the information they give you isn't true, and we call that fibbing. So yeah, just a few thoughts. Some of you will disagree with me, and again, I am not saying that if you have got generations going back, I'm not saying that's not valid. If you've got recipes, spells, workings, a whole tradition that goes back, that is absolutely beautiful. That is a gorgeous thing. But I just want you to be aware of some of the people that use this to impress something upon you, because I know it's daunting. If you first go to a witchcraft event or you get involved in a moot, I'm just saying, take some things with a pinch of salt. And then not even that, the point is that you are no less a witch because you don't have a particular bloodline. Witchcraft, it's in us all. We are all creatures of the earth. But again, not everyone necessarily has the skill to take this further, and not everybody has the inclination, and that is absolutely fine. You could have 2 people who are born to a family of witches, and you'll have one person that wants to continue that, and the other one that doesn't. And the person that doesn't get involved in it at all, it's a very different position to be in to the person who fully embraces it and moves forwards with that. But the key here is that is an intent, that is a choice. So what I'm trying to say is that everyone here is equal, regardless of background. The one thing that everyone that calls themselves a witch or follows a path of witchcraft that has in common is that they made the choice to do that. So moving on now, I want to talk about a very famous goat called Charlie. Now, I've been seeing information online about the goat that featured in The Witch by Robert Eggers. We were talking about Robert Eggers last week because I've been to see Nosferatu, and I guess online there's, a bit of interest about Robert Eggers. And so there's been some information about Charlie, who played Black Phillip in the film. And apparently he was such a nightmare that he was never allowed to work in showbiz again and was shipped off to a farm in North Carolina. And I've seen this repeated over and over again. So I thought I'd do some digging and find out whether he actually was shipped off to a farm in North Carolina. I've not found anything to suggest that. In fact, Charlie, I was going to call him Black Phillip then, he has actually been in 2 films. Now, I don't know, he's been in The Witch and he's been in It Comes at Night. Now, I didn't do enough research to find out whether It Comes at Night came before The Witch or after, but he's quite famous. He's been in 2 films. and I didn't find anything to suggest that he's been banned. He was a difficult character by all accounts. Apparently he had the biggest horns that type of goat could ever have. You're never going to find a goat with bigger horns than him, and he was really, really difficult to handle. Ralph Ineson, who played the father in that film, the starving farmer, he had to lose 30 pounds of weight for the role because he was starving, and he said that it made it really difficult to handle him. He didn't have much left in the tank at the point at which they started filming because he just managed to shed so much weight, and Charlie was 50 pounds heavier than him at this point, so he was really, really difficult. And Charlie headbutted him on the 4th day of filming and dislodged a tendon. Apparently, I didn't know you could dislodge a tendon. I guess you can. He spent the rest of the time filming on painkillers, so it made his role really, really difficult. When they wanted Charlie to stand still, he'd be running around. When they wanted him to move, he'd stand still or go to sleep. And he was just a complete nightmare. Apparently, they had to cut many scenes in the end. They had to abandon so many scenes that they wanted Charlie to be in. And in the end, the film all became about this struggle with Charlie. Eggers didn't want to use CGI. They considered using a puppet, and they made a puppet, and it just didn't work. So they did what they could with him. But neither Ineson or Eggers apparently have remembered him very fondly. Ineson in particular did not like him. He just seemed to have it in for him and would just be completely psychotic around him. He'd either be sleeping or he'd be attacking him. But I say, well done, Charlie. I think you are the star of the show. I think we have to remember that, you know, these are animals. It's really not fair to expect them to behave a certain way. Hopefully Charlie was well looked after and pampered. And in a way, I hope he has gone off to somewhere, to North Carolina, just to relax, really. I'm sure he found it completely perplexing being in that situation, but the star of that particular film is Charlie. I just thought it was fascinating. I'm one of these people that likes to fact check stuff, so when I see something being repeated over and over again, I'm like, is that actually true? Was he actually shipped off to a farm to live out his days? And I couldn't find anything to suggest that, but yeah, he's only done 2 films, but well done, Charlie. So I thought we'd move on to Wassailing now. This is a 12th night tradition. I've made a video or 2 on Wassailing here on YouTube. It happens throughout Britain in fruit orchards, in particular those that grow apple and pears. The idea of a wassailing is to wake up the good spirits that live in the trees and in the orchard so that they get to work. We encourage these spirits, and then hopefully there is a good harvest. We also are looking to scare away evil spirits and demons. This is what people believed would be lurking in orchards and in the trees, and these demons would actually stop the apples from growing. So the idea is to wake everything up. We're starting to get into that growing season. We're moving towards Imbolc, and to scare away any demons and any lurking sort of malignant bad energies that we don't want. So it used to happen on 12th night, which is the 5th of January, but because we had a change in the calendars, we went to a Gregorian calendar, we now do it on the 17th of January, so because that's how it used to be done. So that is known as Old 12y. That is Old 12th night. Our new 12th night is the 5th of January, but this would have happened on the 17th of January before the introduction of the Gregorian calendar. So that means there are lots of wassailing events happening around the UK this weekend. There have been some that have happened already. Some have chosen to honour the date around the 5th. Others have sort of been in between. Some of them have been in the week. I know that in Avebury, I think they did theirs. Did they do theirs in the week or at the weekend? I'm not sure actually, don't quote me on that one. But anyway, a lot of wassailing events are happening this weekend. There's one that happens up in Sherwood Forest, both on this tomorrow and Sunday, I believe. But obviously check out your dates, have a look online. And yeah, it is a lovely, lovely tradition. Usually people would gather around the largest tree in the orchard. and they would hang a piece of toast in the branches. Now the toast was soaked in wassail, and wassail is a warmed drink of either ale or cider or wine. I guess at this stage it would depend on whatever they had left in their stocks. If we're thinking that, you know, we've gone through the winter, I'm sure a lot of alcoholic drinks were consumed during the Yule period, and also just in terms of staying warm. And so, yeah, this piece of toast is dipped in the wassail and hung in the branches of the largest tree. And this is where we get this idea of to toast something. This is where it comes from. As much noise is made as possible, both in the orchard for this gathering, and then they would move on to the next orchard, and that noise would be made along the way. So really, really lovely, fun, kinetic event and experience, and it became very, very popular in Victorian times. Apparently workers were quite often paid in cider rather than money. I'm guessing these would be farm workers that actually worked in the orchards. And this old tradition is very much coming back to life, as many of our old traditions are, which is absolutely lovely. And as I sit here in a freezing kitchen, I'm going to have to say that this is very, very apt. You know, it is like Victorian Britain now. We are choosing between heating and eating. And yeah, so it makes perfect sense that we should bring back all the old Victorian activities. So I'd love to know, are you going to a wassailing this weekend? Have you been to one before? Maybe you've got a local one that you go to regularly. You could even do a wassailing in your own garden. If you've got fruit trees, then why not? Even if you've just got one lone apple tree, why not go out there with your pots and pans, make some noise, sing some songs. There are lots of traditional wassailing carols and songs. You probably even recognise some of them. There is one, I think, literally called the Wassailing Song, and I think it's likely you would recognise that. I'll see if I can find a link to that. Next week we will be talking about Imbolc, because we'll only be 1 or 2 weeks away from that. I'm seriously losing track of time. We will really see if the light that was promised at the spring equinox, whether that promise has been fulfilled. So looking forward to Imbolc. I know it's a favourite Sabbath for some of you. Wednesday this week was a bit like Imbolc. We had blue skies, we had sunshine, and if you managed to catch yourself like in the car or, you know, inside a window where the sun was streaming in, it was actually really quite warm. It was cold outside, obviously, but that warmth of the sun is starting to come back, and we will be on a countdown from Imbolc to the spring equinox. We will be on a countdown, because once we get to the spring equinox, a point of balance, once we just go past that, then we will be tipping into the point of the year where we have more hours of light than darkness, and I am absolutely over the moon about that. I know it takes a little while, you know, 21st or 20th of March. I'm not actually sure what the date is this year. The equinoxes move like the solstices, as you know, because they're solar and they are related to our position on Earth and what's happening. But yeah, we'll get to that part of March and it will still be really cold, I'm sure. It takes a little while for us to start to warm up. It won't be comfortable in this house until May. That's when we'll be able to wear whatever we want, unless it's a particularly cold May. But we're on the move. So we have done the hardest yards. If you find winter really difficult, then we have broken the back of it nearly. We are very, very close to Imbolc, and you will notice that the light quality, you know, when it's light, it's so much brighter than when it's light in the winter, and we get these beautiful blue skies, and there are buds on the trees, and we'll get blossom soon, and yeah, it's just so exciting, so much to look forward to, so much to get excited about. So we'll do some cards now, and then we'll sign off for another week of the Witching Week. Thank you if you're watching, if you got this far. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. It really, really helps. I think we'll pick 3 cards today. I feel like 3 is the number. Okay, we've got 3 cards, and I don't know if you can hear, but we've got some trimming going on outside, which I'm really surprised at. Everything is frozen solid today, but yeah, I can hear the droning. So once it's lighter, I'm going to have to start doing these videos much earlier, I think. Our lovely gardener, Dave, actually moved on, so we have a different gardener, and he gets here a lot earlier. So I anticipate it's actually going to be a lot harder making these videos moving forwards. But we have got 3 cards. We've got the Moon, we've got the King of Wands, and we have got the beautiful 4 of Wands. And I think this reading, immediately what springs to mind is about looking at your goals. So reaching for the moon, if you like, reaching for the stars, having big goals, and also facing your fears. And it's when we do both of these things, when we push ourselves beyond our comfort zone, when we face our fears, when we do something, I mean, they say, don't they, do something every single day that scares you. Now, I don't think there are enough opportunities every single day for something that scares you. I'm in my house a lot of days. Am I going to light the fire and then put my face really close to it because it's going to scare me? That's silly. But when the opportunities come up for you to actually step outside your comfort zone and say yes rather than no, or when you get that little voice that sometimes says I can't do this, which makes me think back to the wine, which sometimes the inner voice is negative, but we are in control. It's about saying yes sometimes, and when we go, oh no, I can't do that, actually you can, and actually you do it. And even if you make mistakes, that's okay, you learn from that. And even if you make a fool of yourself, again, it doesn't matter, you learn what you can do better next time, you learn what you're capable at, what you're not. When we face these fears and when we set our goals high, we can truly achieve absolutely anything we want. And one of the best ways to do this as well, I find, is to have a plan. So have a very definite plan. Right, what do I want to achieve? I want to get to that. It's big, it's ambitious, it's lofty, that's fine. I'll write a plan, I'll work towards it, and then when these things pop up, when these, you know, would you like to do, or how about this as an opportunity, you say yes, you face your fears, and you crack on and you do it, and then usually you're rewarded, and you're rewarded with all sorts of abundance. Now this card in particular usually relates to sort of home, you know, but it's about victory, and it's about abundance, and it's about creating that abundance and creating that stability and building those foundations for yourself. So if there's something you want to achieve, maybe you should work on that this week. Make a plan. Don't listen to the voice inside that says that you can't do something. Just do it. Just crack on with it and do it. And face these fears and just go for it. I really think that, you know, within a year of working on something, even if you think something's going to take you years to achieve it, just chip away at it. Just go for it. This is your sign to go for it. All right, I'm wishing you an absolutely wonderful week. Thank you for watching, thank you for being here, and I'll see you next Friday. All right, lots of love, bye.